We are all aware of the changes brought about by the hybrid mode of work, where on one hand, the lockdown served as a lot of time on our hands. On the downside, it hampered the progress of employees in the workplace. Does a hybrid of work create enough opportunities for employee growth and development? Let's find out in our discussion titled Employee Development in the Hybrid Workplace. To guide us through, we have our moderator, Preeti Dubey, CEO of Strive High, and panelists, Dorothy Enriquez, founder and principal consultant of the Ellevate Collective, Jeffrey Klubeck, adjunct professor, author of The Integrity Game, speaker and coach at San Diego State University, Dr. Ranjit Nair, founder and CEO of the Potluck Culture Solutions, associate professor at Caldwell University, Tish Hodge, founder and CEO of the Shine Institute, and Fernando Valencia, co-founder and chief co-creation officer of Unblinded Mastery. Let's welcome our panelist and moderator.
Very good afternoon to all of you. How are we all doing today? Isn't it amazing to be here in Vegas? It's so exciting. And what's more exciting is to be among such energetic, enthusiastic, learned, knowledgeable, and awesome audience. Can we give a big round of applause to all of you who've showed up here? Thank you for being here. We are all living in very exciting and interesting times. Exciting because we have all survived the worst crisis, the worst pandemic of our lifetime. And interesting because we are creating the new norm, the new normal. So the exciting thing about extreme situations is that it pushes us to take extreme measures. And when we take extreme measures, we discover something completely new. And working in a hybrid environment is a new discovery. I remember before COVID era, when I would talk to my clients, and the organizations would say, "Are you out of your mind? How can I get my employees to work from home? Flexible timing, don't talk about it." Yeah, but suddenly all of us were pushed to work from the four walls of our home. It was difficult. It was difficult for a lot of people in the beginning because people didn't know how to use IT. There was no human interaction. But soon, as the going gets tough, tough gets going. And when the tough gets going, we realize the benefit of the new situation. And people started realizing the benefits of hybrid workplace, flexible timing, work-life balance, mitigating the risk of burnout. There were so many reasons that, people think they can do much more effectively at home. But then, there are challenges involved as well. To make new relationships. Carrying on the older relationships was all right, but new relationships, how do you learn, understand, create a bond of trust and understanding? So that human element was missing in a big time. So we are at a time when we are trying to define what works, what doesn't. So it's a time to reflect and learn from those challenges and situations. And today we are here to discuss this very important, topic. And I'm sure all of you are invested in this topic. So I will include each one of you in the panel discussion. So please grab the mic and ask questions once we finish with the first round of questions. A little bit about myself. I am a trained psychologist and a management consultant, a coach. I run a soft skills consultancy and training company, which is based in Singapore, but we have clients across the globe. And that's what brings me here to this beautiful country, America, and Vegas here. So I would like to invite my esteemed panelists, and they are all experts in their domains, full of energy and full of knowledge, bubbling to share what they have. Let me begin here, first with Dr. Nair.
Introduce?
Yeah, you got to introduce. We changed the format. I am not reading anybody's introduction. You're the best to describe yourself.
Well, working in the hybrid workspace seems to be easy. We're working from home, right? We always remember the old days when we left at 5 p.m. and everyone looked at us and said, they're leaving early. Well, now we're always home. And I see many challenges, as I'm sure you do as well, but I want to call out 3 specific challenges in this order. The first is mental health challenges. I think it's the number one challenge, arguably the number one challenge the world is seeing right now, the challenges of people are unsure of who they are and the environment that they're in. They turn on the news every day. It's pretty depressing. And they bring some of these elements at home. And if you're an extrovert, you long for those human connections, right? The water cooler conversations, the in-office dialogues, the friendships that you make. If you're an introvert, you long for affirmation, someone to say, hey, everything's okay, and listen to you. I think we need to do a better job of understanding that these quiet killers can start at home, mental health challenges. As far as how to deal with mental health challenges, I think employers need to understand that they need to, people don't naturally come and share their vulnerabilities, share their problems with them. So they need to proactively inquire, check-ins, and find out how people are doing. I could talk a lot more about mental health challenges, but the second challenge is distractions. We're not distracted, right? Come on, I know you scrolling through TikTok, right? Your friends call you, you get texts all the time, you have all these things that kind of draw your attention away from work. We know what those challenges are, but the employers also need to appreciate that and try to bring this work from home office into a place where they are getting structure. The structure they would get if they were physically in the workspace. So structure things like having productivity check-ins, or this is when work is done, this is when it's quiet time, and so on. So offering that structure when the structure is not very apparent. The third most, I think, challenging elements of working from home or in a hybrid situation is the collaboration and productivity. Some might think that productivity and collaboration is still waning. I come from the New York area, and still under 53% of the New York, the largest metropolis in the world, under 53% of the workspaces are full. It's still empty. It's kind of easy commuting these days, but so how do you help people become more productive, more collaborative? I think employers need to invest in tools and technologies to help people understand what their personalities are, behavioral styles are, what their motivators and driving forces are, to inquire if someone is a more of a quiet person, how do you draw that out of that individual? Someone who's more technical or data-driven, how do you provide them with more information and more data so they can thrive? Use video check-ins. It'll take you 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds to send a video saying, hey, how's it going, Susie? You doing all right? Here's some new news from the company I want to share with you, but personalizing that.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you, Dr. Nair. This is about the virtual conversations, because he arrived a little bit later, so he was out of the loop. So I will come back to you for you to introduce yourself. You've already addressed my first question about the challenges. Thank you so much for doing that. But now, going forward, may I have you all to quickly introduce yourself and a quick opening statement, and I come back to the questions again. Yes, Tish.
Good afternoon. How is everyone? Yes, my name is Tish Hodge. I am the founder and chief executive officer. I have the honor. My clients, the organizations, the individuals that come to me, they're tired of mediocre. They're tired of black and white and the same old, same old. When they come to me, they want pizzazz. They want some seasoning, some spiciness. So if you're looking for an executive coach, I am your lady. Thanks for the opportunity to have me as a part of your panel.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Ew. Okay, y'all look cute. Make sure you IM and text and call your friends to tell them to come on, because this is about to be a fantastic chat. I am Dorothy Enriquez, the founder and principal consultant of the Ellevate Collective. We're a premier learning and leadership development firm based in Texas and Wisconsin. And so I strive to do three things in the work that I do. I've been in this space for almost 20 years. I started when I was 12, don't blame me. So listen, I want to make leadership development, diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and support relatable, transformative, and accessible. Because ultimately, access without support is still oppression. And so as leaders, our goal is to answer the call on remarkable leaders, which is to produce another leader who can produce another leader who can produce another leader. And so at some point, we have to just understand that managing and leadership are different. They are not synonyms. And so that is what our firm really strives to do, is to work with organizations that are an amazing culture match and don't simply want to check the box. And so, as Preeti introduced our topic about this new normal, I'm excited to have this conversation as we're stepping away from it being the normal. It's not as new as it used to be. And so I'm excited to have this conversation. Thank you all for coming.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Jeff Klubeck, and I'm a soft skill guy. I have a master's in communication. I'm now an unretired professor of communication. I got invited to go back to San Diego State University, my alma mater. Taught in the spring organizational communication. But the reason I retired is because I was going around the world coaching, consulting, training, delivering soft skills through coaching, did various mechanisms. And then COVID hit, et cetera. I wrote this book called The Integrity Game. And the Integrity Game, the subtext for it is motivation plus accountability equals results. So I sit at this intersection, as many of us do, of academia and personal professional growth. So I consider myself a world-class coach, but I'm growing up to be a soft skill provider so we can incorporate training, consulting, e-products, but other forms to get those soft skill acquisition. Now, learned a lot this morning about what's happening in the academic in the classrooms. And so today's panel is about what's happening in the hybrid. And we talk about new normal, but I like to put the fun back in the fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of these complex topics that we're trying to figure out, let's just go back to some basics. We're going to find some fun in the fundamentals today.
Great job. Thank you very much. Clap it up.
Yes.
Well, I am super excited to be sharing this stage with these panelists. I did not answer to any of the emails, so clearly everyone is prepared, but I am excited because I feel as if I planned all of this. I'm hearing and listening the distinction of the language, and here's what I would share. I am a first-generation American. My parents were born in Colombia. My father was born in a barn next to horses and pigs. I'm the first person in my direct family line to get a full scholarship and graduate college. And I believe that the greatest fundamental, and I love a lot of the words that Dorothy said, is this idea of leadership and the distinction between being a teacher, a trainer, a coach, a manager, a boss, and a leader. And recently this year, January 2023, I had the privilege, the honor to receive the Beacon Award from the Ellis Island Honor Society, which named me one of the top 15 most influential philanthropic immigrants in the nation, which, thank you. And I say that with swells in my eyes as I think about the fact that my father still does not speak English. So how does a son of a father who was born in a barn who doesn't speak English become the most influential immigrant in the nation, at least one of the 15? And that is because of our ability to practice the skill of what we call teach and train influence. What does a 31-year-old have to teach the vice president of Goldman Sachs, Deborah? What does a 31-year-old have to teach the partner of Eisner Amper, a massive accounting firm? What am I teaching Amy from Witham? What am I teaching, Tony from McCarter in English? Why do these professionals come to a 31-year-old? Because there's a skill and a differential in being able to discern value, cause, yes, and influence, and that is the foundation of our work. And I'm excited to have that conversation here in the Education 2.0. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much. Big round of applause to all our panelists. I think to be fair, Dr. Nair, quick introduction, 1 minute, half a minute.
I was dropped as a kid growing up, so I was slow. So that's my excuse. My name is Dr. Ranjit Nair. I'm the CEO of a company called Potluck Culture Solutions. I wrote a book of the same name. It's about building a company culture that reveres humanity, people-focused culture. About 12 years ago, my father passed away, and the last thing he told me was, you should be teaching. So I decided to go get a PhD. I'm a professor today. I still have my firm, but I teach management, leadership, human resource management at a Hispanic serving institution in New Jersey. And most of my students are first-generation college students. And it's just remarkable, the transformation you can see when you change the lives of a young person.
Amazing, amazing. We have such an interesting panel here. I think to begin with, let us find out what are the biggest mistakes that employees make in the well-being, in growing the employees. And Tish, Hodge, I think you're very well suited for this question. Could you just let us know what you think about it?
My pleasure, Preeti. I find oftentimes it's not only in the workplace, I think it's in our America, these United States, oftentimes individuals find themselves looking across the aisle and comparing themselves with others, especially with social media. So identity, that's one of the things that I make sure that my clients know. Who are you? What is your brand? What are you here for? What are you bringing across that nobody else does? Our fingerprint is different. Our blood type may be different than our siblings. But one of the areas that people struggle in is comparing. Should I get a PhD because Dr. Nair has a PhD? Do I want to be on the list of the top 15 influencers? Do I have a book that's a bestseller? What am I doing next? What's my next? And I challenge individuals, stop looking to the right or the left. Look in the mirror, look up. What is your purpose? What is your calling? You have to take that quiet time to find out and to love yourself. It starts with God, it starts with you, and until that is solidified, you cannot look at employee development. You have to make sure identity is intact, your purpose is intact before you move forward. Thank you.
That's amazing, isn't it? If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you're just purposelessly doing something and not solving any problem. And that reflects on our core values. How do we as employees connect with each other? And when we are working collaboratively, do I know you? Can I trust you? Do we have integrity in ourselves, and does our team have it? And we have a panelist here, Dr. Jeff. Jeff has written a book, and he's got something called Integrity Game, which he's been practicing for very long. Can you enlighten us how we can use it in a corporate environment?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, most people, let's expand a little bit. By show of hands, to make it a little interactive, how many of you believe that you have integrity? Okay, now please, everybody keep your hand up and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear not to shoot the messenger. All right, but hang on, I want good ratings, and I want good reviews, and I want you to like me, so hang on, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. What is integrity? Now, if I had the time, I would really make it interactive, but somebody's going to say, be your word. Who had that one in your head? Be your word. Do what you say you're going to do. Thank you. Who's somebody else thinking, do the right thing regardless of who's watching? How many of you had that one in your head? How many of you had both in your head? How many of you have nothing else in your head other than those two? Well, what we like about those is that there's an integration in both cases, in bringing word together with behavior and bringing behavior together with values. So the other thing I like about that is in both cases, behavior is the evidence of our integrity. Not what I wanted to do, not what I meant to, not what I was going to do. Not what behavior is the evidence of our integrity. And in both cases, we integrate word with behavior, we integrate behavior with values. But as I like to joke around, Preeti, if I told you that I was going to drink 18 beers before the panel discussion today, and then I drank 18 beers before the panel discussion today, I will have done what I said I was going to do, but could I claim integrity? No. So there are other things that we need to integrate with, yes or no? So the integrity game is a 10-point model. It's basically 10 sets of questions. The first one is purpose, because how many of you have ever built a mansion on top of quicksand? Nobody. So if you have no direction, an EO road will get you there, right? So the idea is a 10-point model, and the game is as easy to understand as it is difficult to play. Understanding what the questions are is the easy part. Answering them is harder, and then making sure they integrate, they empower rather than dilute each other. So the very first thing that I would do to get an employee engaged is make them answer the 10 questions. Now, what do you want to develop, and how does that integrate with your answers? Before we move on, let me just ask you guys a rhetorical question. What would happen in our workplaces? What would happen in our institutions of higher learning or any form of learning, right? If accountability was non-threatening? What would happen if accountability was non-threatening? Let's play the integrity game.
That's nice. Yeah, let's play the integrity game. The thing is, integrity is not something that is so easy to perceive, especially in a virtual environment. When you have a one-to-one interaction, there's so many ways that you connect, that you're able to gauge and understand, because instinctively, we always engage in person. That's how we're used to. Now, Dorothy, I think I'd like to ask you, how can people in a hybrid environment communicate effectively, irrespective of the, of course, the location? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as I'm hearing what everyone else is saying, as we decide, are we going to communicate asynchronous or synchronously in this hybrid work environment, I think we have to also look at the people first. Sometimes we want to just be so concerned with the process. How are we going to do it? What tools are we going to use? But as we think about this environment and how burned out people have become in this remote environment, now everyone's going back to work, how can we establish that trust, whether we're present or not? How can we make sure that people have that space where there's openness available, there's authenticity available, there's reliability available, where we can say, you know what, whether you are face-to-face with me or not, I can still trust you to get your work done. I can still trust you to be collaborative and be partnered up with the key people who will allow us to bring these initiatives to life. Because I think pre-COVID, if I could not see you working, that means you're not working. And so that has been flipped around, and now we're forced to explore what are the options. And I think we are primarily used to synchronous, where I can get a response right away. I can IM you, and I'm going to see the little bubbles. I know you're responding. And if you take too long, I'm going to call you because you're taking too long. And if you don't respond, I'm also going to set up a Zoom so that I can see what you're doing and why you're taking so long. These are those synchronous communication models, but it doesn't always. What if there's this huge time difference? Then I have to be up at 2 a.m. or you have to be up at 2 a.m. So we have to be able to explore both. On the other side of that is the asynchronous, which of course we're familiar with it, right? We could send a fax, we could send an email, we could have shared documents on the shared drive, we could also use apps like Asana and things of that nature. But I think as we decide how are we going to communicate in this hybrid work environment, we have to check the people before we look at the processes so that we can be thoughtful about what experience we curate. I think so often we're just so busy, we just want to get it done, we want to execute with brilliance, but we forget that people are the secret sauce. So what's going to work in our culture, because culture eats strategy for breakfast, culture trumps everything.
Amazing.
So what do we want this culture to be like, right? And so as we think about how we're going to communicate, we have those tools in place, but how can we maximize it based on the people who are present and the culture that we want to continue to cultivate?
That's awesome. Really awesome. I mean, culture eats strategy for breakfast,
Every day,
the way she
twice
said
on
that.
Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important that we are more goal and performance oriented, right? Rather than micromanaging people, seeing people that they're doing it. I think this requires a huge mindset change. And I think mindset change requires influencing others. So that brings me to Fernando, because you're a great influencer. Tell me, how can you influence people to think differently so that they don't focus on micromanagement? Like, I want to see you doing this right in front of me, but I trust you.
Perfect question.
Yep.
So I will start with Albert Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. And my coach and mentor, co-founder of Unblinded, Caligi, which P.S., he will be the showstopper at 4 o'clock, In the 40 conferences over the 8 years that 2.0 has been doing its thing, it's never brought all the speakers together until they spoke to me through the power of influence, and we caused that. So he's going to be speaking in room 306 at 4 p.m., bringing all the conferences together. He taught me that, once again, everything as simple as possible, not simpler, in order for you to recruit, retain, and truly build the greatest of talents, because I'm pretty decent talent. I built my first $1 million business when I was 21. I've built $3 million companies since then before I even met him. And I took my entire vision and realized that our visions were the same. And what he's taught me, and he's had teammates for 35, 20 years. He owns a 150-person law firm. He shared with me, in order, Fernando, for you to keep teammates that are loyal with energy, excitement, and culture, is you must help them grow personally, professionally, and financially. Personally, professionally, and financially. The secret sauce, which is not that secret, we call it a formula, how he built his law firm is he was training personal and professional development instead of talking about the law. Now, for most professionals, that seems crazy, but mathematically, it is not. And I will end with causing others to change their viewpoint through the power of influence is a time dynamic. I am not here to change your mind. I'm here to positively influence the truth. Because once we hear the truth, it cannot be unheard. And the only thing that unhears truth is ego. And ego is truly, yeah, thank you for that, the only challenge in moving through culture is ego, period. And our foundation, our work, not our nonprofit, the foundation of our work is called integrity-based human influence. We've got a lot in common, brother. And we break it into 3 sections. Self-mastery, which is personal development, peak performance, mindset training, put that all over here. That's your ability to move through fear of failure, fear of rejection, step into what we call zone action, which is the most effective, efficient action step you can take today for the rise of your money, time, and magic. In the middle, we have influence mastery, which is how you go from hello to yes, one-on-one and one-on-group, 2 completely different dynamics. And the third is what we call process mastery, which is the who, what, where, why, when of sales, marketing, recruitment, retaining, management. All these 3 come together because if all you do is focus on self-mastery and you drop off influence and process, nothing happens. If you're the most charismatic, influential person in the world, but you're stuck in fear, failure, and rejection, you have nowhere to channel that influence, nothing happens. If you have incredible influence mastery, incredible process mastery, but you're stuck in lack of self-mastery, nothing happens. So all 3 together are critical. And in fun energy, because I agree with my fellow partners here, we would just use different language. We define integrity as the giving more value than you're looking to take and doing it transparently, which is why I agree with the action. Because if my man here drank 16 beers, he wasn't looking to give, he was taking.
It's 18.
18, yes, correction. So integrity is the giving of more value than you're looking to take and doing it transparently. So please, back to you.
That's amazing. Any questions, audience? Don't be shy.
Not all at
If you have
once.
a question, if you have a question, please go for it. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So this is for the collective panel, I guess. Being that you all have arrived at your particular destination, how hard and how long was the journey from conception to actually getting to where you are?
I'm not going to acknowledge arriving anywhere, just that I'm here right now. I mean, I'm focused on where I want to go rather than acknowledging having made it or anything like that. And then in terms of how long it took, like since the late 50s, that's how long it took me to get here. No, I mean, but the truth is, again, purpose, right? And identity. So it's not really work. It doesn't, you work hard, play hard, integration, right? So I don't really think I work. I get up and play and anyway, so I got more to go than celebrating where I'm at.
I'd also like to add in terms of ego. I don't think that I have arrived. I will forever be evolving. On that day that I think that I have arrived, I think I was speaking with my sister here from Florida. When you humble yourself and you stay low, there's nobody that can knock you over. So that mindset is just of hustle and just be that light and just continue to kill the game. There's no finish line. There's no arrival for me. The only person I'm competing with is myself. And so when I focus on that, I'm not thinking of a glass ceiling. I'm not thinking, I serve a God that's infinite. He's omnipresent. There's no limit for me. So I'm just going to keep going until he cracks the sky.
Can I add to that? I believe that only thing that we get from this world is what we ask for. If we don't know our ask, and we don't know our ask until we know who we are, until we know what are we good at, what is that best gift that I have that I can use to solve the problems of this world? Because we all have at least one special gift. And when I know what that is what I can give, and I want to know how can I make that change happen? How can I contribute more than what I want to take? But when I want to contribute, how do I want to contribute? What is the way? I need to make an ask, have my goals defined. And when I see things clearly and try to deliberately make my success happen, only then will I get my success. Because just hoping that things will happen, it never happens. Nothing happens by itself. We have to be strategic about our success. We need to know what to ask, when to ask, and ask for it, and then walk the talk. And of course, well, I do acknowledge that I have arrived to some destination, but the journey is far ahead, and I shall make my ask. Thank you. That's my take about your question.
I love that question because I was talking with my boyfriend a couple days ago, and he asked me, what did your 16-year-old self want to do? And so I was reflecting, like, okay, I want to get a job. I want to, like, look cute while I do it, carry a briefcase. I want to be paid to talk. And so essentially, as I thought about all of those thoughts that I had at 16, I arrived by 26. That's how far those goals took me. And so I think that when I heard that question, what it translates to in my mind as we look at people achieving different things in their life, the question then is, what were your 6 biggest moves to get here? And so when I think about some of my biggest moves, part of it, like what we've heard on this panel and what we've heard from other people today, is number 1, recognizing who you are. Sometimes I think that we're asleep, and so something will wake us up. And so when you start to recognize who you are, just like my esteemed colleague Tish said, the possibilities are infinite. And you're literally waiting for the sky to just crack open for you. But in recognizing who you are, that's one part of it, but then also, what's your purpose and calling? Some people are 10 and don't know, 20, 40, 50, 60, still trying to figure it out. But if you can figure out why you're here and what you were designed to do, it's not going to feel like work. This is something that you would do for free. But also, another big move for me has been about how I talk about my mistakes and failures. There are lots of organizations that manufacture failure so that they can get the biggest gains because the most transformation is elicited through how you discuss your failures and your mistakes. But a lot of times, we have such a crippling fear of failure that we aim low. Aim so low that if you miss, no one will notice. But how do we talk about the mistakes that we make, the failures that we find ourselves navigating so that we can have the greatest transformation? But also, part of the journey is not having perfection as your standard because it is the lowest standard. It's the lowest standard that you can have. And figuring out 5, meaning. We want to be happy, yes, but that is the lowest level of happiness. So in what you're doing, can you find meaning so that in the hard times, in the best times, in the mountain peaks, at the valleys, you still have something that's waking you up every day and making you get up and go? And lastly, where do you come from? I'm a third culture kid by way of Italy, Belize, the United States, Japan. My parents came here from Belize in the 70s. I was born in Italy, raised in Japan. But at the end of the day, when I look at all of these experiences, I look at it and say, that's everybody's experience. Everybody grew up just like that. And in living life and connecting and building rapport and relationship, finding out that's not the case. And so how can you leverage your unique experiences, the great ones and the not so great ones, because ultimately your story is not for you, it's for someone else. And so what are the 6 biggest moves? Your target will always be moving, but how did you get here? And taking time, as we heard earlier, to reflect. Before you reinvent, can you subtract and then add so that you're not building anything on quicksand? Yes? Yes? Say yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Amazing. I don't know if we have 5 more minutes. Do we have 5 more minutes? Oh, all right. Thank you so much for that insight. Quick 30 seconds takeaway for our audience. How do you create an effective hybrid world? Dr. Nair.
You guys want a quick 30-second philosophy lecture? I hated philosophy in college. Socrates said, know thyself. That's the secret to happiness. But what he didn't tell us is what Kierkegaard, the Dutch philosopher, told him a few years later and said, it's about, yes, know thyself, but also choose thyself. Embrace who you are. No one will embrace you if you don't embrace yourself first. The third is the Italian philosopher Mirandola, who said, yes, know thyself, choose thyself, but also you got to create thyself. Grow yourself, learn, continuously find opportunities, explore, try looking, go to different countries, learn a language. And finally is the fourth philosopher, is just a philosophical, spiritual philosopher, whether it's religious-based, Christ or Buddha or any Hindu gods. But if you're not religious, what's your spirituality? Give thyself to others. Offer your help to other people. That's what's missing in the world.
Thank you, Dr. Nair. Yes, go ahead.
I think love is the answer. If love is the number one thing, I have my team here with me, and when I hire, I look for heart. When I create an environment, whether it's hybrid, it's at home, it's in the office, did I hire right? Did I hire that person that I can trust? For some, they don't give trust. Trust is earned. For me in the Shine Institute, trust is given until you show me otherwise. So in a hybrid environment, in any environment, you're looking for heart, you're hiring for heart, you are instilling trust and giving trust in a safe, psychologically safe place. If the place is safe and you're trusting your team, you can work with your 18 beers on the beach because I trust that you're gonna get the job done. I'm making it a safe place for you. I saw your heart. I hired you. I'm going to give you that free space. It's up to you to see what you do with it. If you can work with bears, it's fine with me as long as we get the job done. So have love.
I stopped working after the 11th.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. For me, I think, the long and short of it is really, truly switching to outcome-based performance models. Ultimately, we want to be able to see people working. That's part of why people want folks back in the office. We're paying all this money, the lights, the water, everything, and I need to see you doing your job. However, if we can switch to truly outcome-based performance, what it will do is it will allow us to start to really see how long does this job take. Maybe people can finish in 2 hours. Maybe they can finish in 4 and stop looking busy. And perhaps we can transform how we set up roles, what that looks like, and really being able to foster an environment where people can pursue some of those personal aspirations and goals, and the company can fund part of it, just like Google does. Or folks can start to explore side hustles and things that allow for fulfillment and meaning, so that ultimately we're not just surviving, but there's an opportunity to thrive. So switching to that outcome-based performance is critical in this hybrid workforce if we're going to create cultures where people want to come to work every day and we can eradicate Sunday blues. No one wants to be stressed at 4, 5, 6 p.m. thinking about going to work on Monday.
Go ahead.
Well, to me, again, it doesn't matter if it's hybrid or skybrid or bybrid or whatever. If the employee isn't engaged, they're not going to develop.
That's right.
Like the fun back in the fundamentals. So of all the things that we could say when we talk about engagement, we've heard this, right? We have first, as leaders, we want to take the time to really get to know who we're leading. And then what do they want? Right? So many of us in this world have been told what we want, have been encouraged to believe that we want something, whether it's keeping up with the Joneses or whatever. But we want to take the time, that's why I start with the integrity game. I did this in my classroom at organizational communication. Why are you taking the class? Well, because it fit my schedule. So that person's sitting at the starting line. They have no interest in the content whatsoever on day one. How do I get them to, I'm going to drag them, push them, pull them, lift them, and throw them over? No, I want the people that are going to run and jump, and I'll help them over the hurdle. So let's start with the integrity game. Answer these 10 questions. Now, why are you taking this class? Oh, because if I learn OrgCom, it'll fit my plan. And if you don't have answers to your integrity game questions, you're a pawn in somebody else's integrity game, right? And what happens to a building, bridge, or tunnel without structural integrity? It what? When what? Any pressure test. With, right? The lower the structural integrity, the more minor the pressure test. Like, you can blow on it, it'll crumble. It makes sense? So human beings, teams, and cultures are no different. Can't build a mansion on top of quicksand. Let's get the individual to answer their questions. Let's get the team to answer 10 questions for itself. Let's get the organization to answer its 10 questions. Let's put it up on the wall and everybody knows each other's answers. So now I can help you with your game, you can help me with mine. But if an information or an input or a stimulus comes along and it doesn't integrate with my game, it's a polite no. No, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jeff.
Well, first, sir, I just want to acknowledge you for your question. My listening was very tuned, and I am present to the strength and vulnerability and even asking in the exact sequencing in which you did. And as a young man, I would share, and I am a perfectly imperfect human. I have imperfections. I don't believe in right or wrong, good or bad. It's all about the scale of mastery. I am present to that arrival is not as joyous as the journey to arriving. And I believe that, as Albert Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, not simpler. All humans, most human beings, 99.999% want more of three things. A, they want more money. And it's different for everyone. Financial independence, financial literacy, financial freedom, it's money. Once you achieve a certain level of money, which is different for everyone, and it's not about judgment, a billionaire is not any more or less of a person than, a hundredaire, and everything in between. Once you achieve the level of money that you desire, the second thing you desire is time, freedom of choice, the freedom to choose what you do with your money. Once you have a certain level of money and time freedom, the third desire, in my language, we would call that magic, synonymous for love, fulfillment, legacy, building churches, donating, traveling, building a family, being alone, whatever that is for you. So when it comes to education and or the workplace, when it comes to helping those grow personally, professionally, and financially, the how mechanism is by helping them grow in their money, their time, and their magic. Because if a leader is a true leader, and just for example, in a non-religious sentiment, I model Jesus Christ as a human and the person I believe in, that gentleman wanted to transcend himself, and he didn't have a lot of business partners. He had 12. Now there's billions of people. So his ability to cause leadership, to help them all grow personally, professionally, and development, to help them grow in their money, time, and magic was absolutely profound. And if you look at any organization, here's the three things they want. They want money, they want members, and they want engagement. So if you're wondering, how do I merge with this group? How do I book more speaking engagements? It's by helping them grow personally. It's by giving them more money, members, and engagement. So thank you all for the opportunity to be here. And if any of this that I've shared is resonating in the smallest of bits, I once again ask you to join me at the Showstopper Room in room 306, where my co-founder, my coach, my mentor, Sean Caligi, blind attorney, who, P.S., if any of you are into Tony Robbins or not, the dude is worth $850 million. He owns 147 companies. He owns a piece of the Golden State Warriors, and he coached 2 presidents. He has said publicly, no one leads with more heart and integrity than Sean Caligi. If you don't know what he's up to, which is Unblinded, you need to. And thank you all for allowing me to be here.
So yeah, thank you all the panelists. And just to wrap it up, I think working in a remote environment and hybrid environment is really a challenging task. But as our panelists have very eloquently, because of their vast experience shared, that we need to first be in tune with ourselves, know ourselves, grow ourselves, and give ourselves, as Dr. Nair said. And Tish said, that head without heart is only half of the equation. If we do not align the two, then we do not connect. And as Dorothy said, connecting with each other. We need to be people-focused and result-oriented. Only being result-oriented and losing the focus on people will not yield results. But without being result-oriented, we don't know where to drive people, their energy, and how to synergize that. So we need to develop a proper, we have that alignment and understanding that we don't just, when you're talking to people, we hold them accountable, we trust them, we develop that collaboration, that spirit in them, and then we trust that they will deliver on the result. So it has to be result, productivity. That way we measure it. And Jeff said, now we can only do that only if we have integrity in ourselves, in our organizations, and we believe in the integrity of our people. And very well, Fernando summarized it for all of us, that we need to understand, have self-mastery, should be able to influence, and then connect with each other, whether it is a virtual environment, hybrid environment, or in person. So I really thank you all for your patience and for being such a wonderful audience. If you still have a question, I've been told that we still have a minute.
Real
Any
quick
question?
though, before any question, I'm going to invite everybody, please, will you put your hands together for our moderator, Preeti, who I'm just going to say, I came to the conference believing that we were going to have the most well-prepared and responsible moderator. The challenge is issued if anybody else is moderating. But Preeti, thank you for everything you've done to bring us together and to prepare for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Very kind of you to say that. I really appreciate that. We still have time? Yeah, we still have time. Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate. Anybody has any other question? Or any other takeaway that you want to share with us? We have, yeah, please. Come on, grab the mic, ask the question.
Our lunch buddy.
You all have been at our table at lunch, I'm telling you that right now, but we're going to be networking later on.
What do you have?
I got a quick question. Bias first. I believe it takes 2 generations to forget and 3 to not care. So it looks at least like 2 generations on stage. How are you having one integrity conversation with 5 generations working side by side?
Well, if you're asking me, I'm going to listen to Fernando in a minute. But to me, it's the whole integrity piece. It's not a biography. It's not I'm not writing your integrity game story. I don't know your answers unless I take the time to ask you, and then you tell me, and then right. It's autobiographical. We're talking about 100% self-responsibility, right? Period. Right. So you have your story. You have your story. You have your answers. I'm not going to tell you what your answers are. I'm going to ask you what your answers are. Right. But a lot of the world is set up telling children, telling employees, telling students what their answers need to be. And I go into the classroom and say, you tell me what you want to do. You tell me why you're here. And then I'll structure the course to try to meet those needs. But why are you here? No, why are you here? Why are you here? I'm not going to tell you why you're here. But at the end, I got to put a grade down. I got to assign a grade. Or at the end, we got to issue a paycheck or do a performance review or measure a KPI. So accountability is not going to go away. But if I'm only holding you accountable to what you want, then accountability should be non-threatening.
Wow. We have another question. Thank you. Thank you for that question first, yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you panelists. I think you have provided such wonderful insight. So as one who is a higher education professor, I understand all of what you're saying. But for the child in the ghetto who worries about what she may eat, for the child who's passed on through foster care, who worries whether or not she or he will be abused. How do you apply those principles to the realities in which children face, in which adults face, in which underrepresented groups face? Because I get it. These are all valuable perspectives that we here as educators, we do share. But what happens from theory to practice?
Very good.
Can I take that question?
Sure, go ahead.
That's my sister. We were talking about it before we came to the panel. So I think that telling your story, seeing those examples, I should have been a statistic. My mother was 17 when I was conceived and I arrived. My dad was 19. My mother has 8 children by 5 baby daddies. I should not have been a homeowner at 25. I should not be a founder and a CEO. However, even in my home where I grew up, I thank God that God was there. You know, she wasn't my mom, but she would always tell me, you have a choice. Do you want to continue the cycle of your mom, Or do you want to make something of yourself? What are you going to do? The choice is yours. So it may be tough now. We may not have the money. We know you want to go on a class trip. We have to sit at the kitchen table. We have to count our pennies. This is what we're going to have to do. We're going to hustle. If you want to break this cycle, I am going to sit with you. I'm going to fight for you to break that cycle. But the choice is yours. And I'm here today to let you know that I'm willing to have those clients with the life coaching. We are here to break the cycle. Do you want to make it? You can. It's mindset. You have to decide, who are you going to be? Are you going to be that pregnant teen? I could have been that pregnant teen, but I didn't want that. Today, I'm 42 and I don't have any kids yet, but I still trust and claim that they're going to come in time. I chose a different path, and it's available for everyone. It's a choice that you have to make. Hope that helps.
I think that's really amazing. We all have a choice. You have a take?
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal question. And I think depending on where you sit, there are some people who can relate completely and some people who might say, why is that their life? But if there's one thing I've learned about my own life, my life has been stable but completely chaotic. Completely chaotic. And I've been telling myself a story that I'm not used to chaos, I'm not used to chaos, I'm not used to chaos. But I live in chaos endlessly. I became a single mother suddenly. Like, what? I went to the welfare office, all the things, they wouldn't even give it to me. They were like, you have an education, you'll be all right. And I've been paying into the system. Eventually I did get it, but I couldn't believe me, a big grown me. Welfare, but I have a master's degree, I had a house. Why is this my life? But again, my dad always told me, live your life by choice, not by chance. And I remembered that, and I tried to hold on to that, because in the process of losing it all, to get it all, to lose it all again and get it all back, sitting here today, you don't know what people have been through, you don't know what they've experienced, but I think that at the end of the day, if it's chaos and you're a tornado, are you going to destroy everything? Or are you going to turn that tornado upside down and be the tip of the spear because of the stories that we tell ourselves? It doesn't mean it's not true. It does not mean it's not a hot mess and a dumpster fire. But who am I becoming as a result of this? And who can I help and touch if I tell my story, if I can be honest and open and transparent? Because like you, I am a foreign national as well. And it's been a journey. And so it's hard. But I do think we have to finish the sentence, and I can do hard things. And so if there's anyone that can provide that ray of hope to show us courageous possibility, let's go find that person if we can.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that answer, Dorothy. But to answer the question that the first gentleman asked us, that how do you work across 6 generations together? And I think they have very well conveyed that, that we have to understand their story. Because each generation has a different story. They have gone through a different life cycle, a different, set of challenges and different opportunities. So we have to understand what is their framework. The frame of reference is different. And if we try to evaluate and shape them and set expectations based on our own frame of reference, it's not going to work. We need to understand what is it that they want? Why are things different for a different generation? And based on that, we have to grow them, we have to nurture them, we have to understand them, and then we have to develop them. So then connecting with each other as individuals and accepting each other who as the different generations are. And it's really an interesting environment to work in because different generations have really a very great skill sets, which somebody who's in 20s can be great in technology. Somebody who's in 50s, 60s is great with strategy. They can be mentoring and they can be reverse mentoring. And they can be best together with each other. And both of them are fulfilling their desire to give. You see? Live, grow, give. So they are all doing everything at the same time. I don't know if I've answered that question. So I think we are done for today's panel. Thank you so much for this wonderful panelists. They have shared such wonderful experiences. Thanks to all of you, amazing audience, for you've been most participative, and I've really loved being here with you all. So I think every challenge is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to reflect, reflect, and reinvent ourselves. And I believe we will all make the most of it and come up with a great hybrid working environment. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.